welcome back to Living History. I'm here today with Brewster Sturtevant again. This is number 2 because we covered so many topics, but we didn't cover everything.
True.
That's probably true for everybody I've interviewed, but it's especially true for you because you were right in the green, you were right in an interesting period, and
Yes, I was.
yes, you were.
And a fun time.
Yes, and you have a fantastic memory. Fantastic. Okay, so we're working our way up to World War II. If you want to know what happened in the 30s, you're going to have to see number 1.
And I did talk a little about victory gardens at
You
that
did.
point.
You mentioned the victory gardens, which everybody was encouraged
Right.
to do.
And other than that, it was a lot of gardening and a lot of working on a chicken farm and myself and learning how
But
to...
during the war, you built a crystal radio with your dad.
I did that, and then we wound our own coils and built a shortwave radio. A crystal radio, we were lucky if we could get Springfield
Oh.
on what we could build. But we wound our own coils.
Which were like how big?
Oh, about that. And for each band of frequencies, you had to plug the right coil in to get what span of frequencies you wanted. And thank goodness my father was an amateur radio operator and he knew what he was doing.
That was very lucky.
Yes.
Was he an engineer? Or?
No.
No? He just
No.
had that talent.
No, the answer was that yes, he could solve anybody's plumbing problem or anybody's electrical problem, or and loved amateur radio, and had an early license in Springfield.
A ham license?
A ham license in Springfield, and his name was Windsor Sturtevant, and it was W1WS. It was his call sign. And he would get all excited when he could reach Northampton. Holyoke was easy, and Springfield was easy. But he'd get all excited when he could raise somebody in Northampton, which at that time in the late aughts and early teens, which is when he did this, was 19 aughts and 19 teens.
Yeah, right. We've already had other aughts.
Right. And he was a very dedicated amateur radio operator. He loved it. And anyway, we did build a shortwave radio together, along with my younger brother, and he helped. And the idea was, and this was done in the late 30s, prior to our involvement in World War II, but not prior to Europe's involvement in the war. And my mother had a cousin by the name of Janet Brewster, who eventually married a gentleman named Edward R. Murrow.
I've heard of him.
Yes, a lot of us had.
I saw the movie too.
Yeah. And they went to Europe and went to England, and he broadcast the Blitz from England and broadcast during the war.
That was what made him famous, was those broadcasts during the Blitz.
And we, our shortwave radio received BBC from England, and we could receive it, which was neat, which was fun.
It's amazing.
We had to live strange hours to listen to him, but we knew when he was coming on because it was a set time. And so we'd get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and find BBC and make sure we had a decent signal and listen. And it was kind of thrilling because it...
and listen to Ed.
And listen to Ed, or listen to Janet if Ed was off doing something else, which he did. He made a couple of the runs on the bombers a couple of times just to do it. And so he could talk about it when he got back, when we were bombing Great Britain, or when these were on British bombers, or ours, either one. And, but anyway, that was an interesting time, and we did this.
Did he broadcast every day?
No, it was once or twice a week. At least that's all we seemingly could get him. And it may have had something to do with we weren't allowed to get up too many nights at 2 o'clock in the morning to receive him, or 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, exactly.
The challenge of junior high.
I was going to say, you're sounding like a school mother. But it was fun, and it was an interesting experience to me, and probably led to didn't lead to it, but I was comfortable being a communications officer on board a ship in the Navy. So when I got into the Navy, so.
Oh.
And I knew a little bit about transmission signals and reception and stuff like that, which didn't hurt.
So before you went in the Navy, you went to high school in Springfield?
Went to high school, went to classical high school in Springfield.
Oh, yay.
Yay, classical.
Yay, classical. What a great school.
And had a reasonably good time. It took me 4 years to get through the 3-year school on the advice of Dean of Admissions at Dartmouth College, where I ultimately went, who was a classmate of my father's at Dartmouth, which didn't hurt.
No, never, right.
And he suggested I either take a prep school year or take a 4th year in high school. My marks were not that good.
Oh.
And he said, you'll do better, and it may have been a maturity problem that I started school at exactly 4 1/2. And I was always one of the youngest kids in class coming all the way through. So I started out in the class at 19.
It doesn't hurt.
No, it doesn't. And
it used to push kids through.
And I had a lot of friends through dancing school that were the class behind me. And so that I knew a lot of people from Longmeadow that were in high school. And
did you have Dr. Smith, Ed Smith?
Ed Smith, of course.
Me too.
Amazing man.
Amazing.
And a good Dartmouth graduate, too.
He was?
Yes.
I still, at our reunions, we remember things he taught us, you know. He taught English.
I never had him as an English teacher,
but
I knew him.
He had all these little examples of dangling participle was hastily eating our lunch, the steamboat pulled away. And he taught us all to spell onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia. My daughter in 1st grade corrected her teacher on the spelling of onomatopoeia. Anyway,
I love
Ed Smith. I had him right at the end.
I did not have him for English, and but I knew him because of my father, and he and my father were very close friends, and so as a result of that, it was. He was a port in a storm. If I needed someone to talk to, I could go talk to Ed Smith after school. And when I was in high school, I used to work at the Springfield Fire and Marine Insurance Company, which was right down the hill where the Springfield school office is now, school department office.
I think they're moving it finally.
They're trying to move out of there.
The building's falling apart.
Yeah, I know it is. It was falling apart.
So what could you do in an insurance company as a high school student?
I worked in the mailroom.
Oh, you deliver mail, sort mail.
Well, I sorted the outgoing mail. This was after school, and summers I could work as an endorsement clerk.
It's an endorsement?
Endorsement
that sounds like you have some authority.
No, it's something you change an insurance policy with as an endorsement. And somebody had to check the arithmetic on it that an agent had done in the field, and an agent out. And they were sending this into the home office, and somebody had to check the arithmetic on it, and this was one of the things that I was taught how to do. And
wow, so you got into that early.
Well, my father was in the insurance business, so it was in the property and casualty insurance business. And so the one field I was never allowed in was the New England field.
Oh, really?
In case I take secrets home to my father.
Oh, I see.
So I worked in New York State, and I worked in the Central Department, which was Pennsylvania and Delaware and New Jersey and Maryland.
But yeah, and you did that as a career.
No, I ended up in the agency that my father was in.
Oh, yeah.
I eventually took that over, so.
The reason I know that is because of your telephone.
Yeah.
You tell them about your telephone.
Which one?
The private line you finagled.
Oh, well, that was when I first moved back to Longmeadow.
I know. We're just skipping ahead, but you know, I might forget later.
I insured the number two gentlemen for New England Tel, or the office did, in Springfield. And when we moved back to Long Meadow on a Wolf Swamp Road, it was all party line down there, and there were 4 or 5 parties on the line.
Right, not 2 parties.
Not 2. It was
4 parties.
Could be 4 parties on the line.
Not that many trunk lines into Long Meadow yet.
Well, not into the Wolf Swamp Road area. This
right.
was just as it was being developed. We got our mail at the corner of Shaker Road and Wolf Swamp Road.
Just in a bunch?
No.
Oh, you had separate
individual boxes, but at the corner. And about 6 houses beyond 161 Wolf Swamp Road, which is the house we bought, it was a dirt road the rest of the way to East Long Meadow. And it was getting into the rural countryside, woods across the street, and that was great.
Yeah.
But it...
okay, so one of your customers was very high up in the telephone company.
Yeah, and
there was only the one telephone company.
And I called this gentleman, and I will not name him, but I said, if you're going to call your insurance agent, do you want to fight through a party line or not? And he said, absolutely not. We'll fix it. And it brought single lines. It's a telephone call. It brought the single line onto the Wolf Swamp Road. He said, we'll fix it for the street.
Yeah, private lines.
Yep.
Private lines.
And
private lines for all my neighbors. Yeah.
Well, that just, as long as they were putting one in, they might as well put a trunk in and just do it.
Right. That's so great. Okay, we can go back now. I just love that. You getting private line service.
That was a fluke.
Because when I grew up, we did a party line, but it was 2 parties.
Yeah.
Was it 4 parties?
But this this was rural. I mean,
yes.
4-party line was rural, and a fishing club my father belonged to, the telephone number was South Londonderry 52, ring 3. And there were 11 people on the line.
Oh my goodness.
But it was up a mountain, and it was a dead-end line, and it was the telephone line that went up the mountain. And they were the 3rd ring on the line. Anyway, that has nothing to do with Long Meadow history.
Well, we have telephones.
Yeah.
So you went to Glasgow, then you went to Dartmouth. Mm-hmm. Did that in 4?
Did that in 4.
Of course, I went to Glasgow from 5th grade on. I was there 8 years. Anyway, and then you went in the Navy? And
went in the Navy, worked for the Fire and Marine for 6 months, and went in the Navy in January of '53.
Now, there was no draft then?
Yes, there was.
There was?
Yes.
Oh, the Korean War.
Yes, very definitely. And I escaped it because I had a letter.
Oh, excuse me 1 minute. So World War II obviously had a draft and a registration for everyone. I've seen 60 years old.
I believe you still have to register.
Yeah, everybody still has to register. Yeah. But was there a draft all the way through, or did it pick back up with the Korean War?
It may have blinked, a quick blink, and picked back up again. But I think it went straight through. Because I know when I turned 18, I got a 1A draft card. So.